Breath of Hope. It's just a beautiful film. Very, very beautiful film. John French is with us this evening. And John, I understand that you're the architect for this property in Nepal. Could you talk a little bit about, yeah, and we may turn one of these off here too. John, are you Buddhist, first of all?
No.
You're not?
I'm just a Winchester resident here in Massachusetts.
Okay. And how did you actually connect? Did you connect, first of all, with the Buddhist community in Acton? How did it come about?
As a lot of things in life, my kids got me into it. And what happened was my daughter had a friend who knew Lapsang from Concord. And my daughter was teaching in Cambodia, and a friend came over, and they said, well, why don't we go over and visit this school? Well, it's not quite as simple as getting on a plane. It's actually, you have to fly to India, and then there's a 2-day trip on a truck over some high passes on dirt roads. And anyway, she went for 3 days and stayed for 3 weeks. And while she was there, she was talking to Lapsang, and he said, well, I really need some help planning some of this, the growth of the school. And my daughter, of course, volunteered me. And I thought, well, that's pretty far away. I don't know how I can possibly get involved in that, although I'd always been interested in getting involved in third world architecture rather than fancy hotel lobbies and things like that here, which I like, but I wanted something a little better. And anyway, so I sort of forgot about it, and then all of a sudden I get a call from Acton, Massachusetts, which is not too far away. And there's this connection there. And so I said, all right, I'm going over to visit my daughter in Cambodia. So I went over and I said, all right, I'll go to India. So I went there, and like the filmmakers and like probably everyone else who's been there, you just are amazed by the place. And I was blown away. And he needed the help. At the time, I just retired. Well, actually, it was just during the 2007 depression, and real estate was in the dumps. So I had time in my hands. And it just made a lot of sense to do it, and I've been working with them ever since.
Did you actually create the plan and help build the school itself?
The buildings that you see in the film were actually done by another organization, for the school, but it was an Italian organization that got the money and built the buildings there. The master plan that he was looking for, right now they have 85 children, and one of the things about the film, obviously, is that there's enormous pressure to get more children into the school, because there's enormous need in that community, and so they want to expand it, and so they needed a planning process in order to expand it, so I've worked on that.
And so you actually saw the expansion of the school, and do you continue to oversee the architecture of the expansion that's probably needed?
Yeah, I'm on the board, and right now we're working on a family housing. Family being, these kids are actually organized into groups of 20. One of the things that doesn't show in the film as clearly is the wonderful organization they have there into families of 20 kids. And they're managed by a wonderful lady in Amala, they have several of them, our house mother, and they are just the most amazing people I've met almost. And anyway, they need housing for those kids, and that was one of the purposes of the film, so that's what I'm working on designing right now.
Is your daughter still a part of that community?
Only peripherally. She's much younger. She's going to graduate school here, so.
Okay, so
Not
she
right-
still
not right
has
now.
her plate full with
Yeah.
education. Romina Baria?
Yeah.
Did I say it right? Okay. Romina, tell me, how did you get involved with the community in Nepal? Did you get involved here,
It's in India.
stateside?
India.
Okay, so you got involved in India.
I mean, this is in India.
Right, but I'm wondering, did you get involved with the community here in Acton first, or was it in Nepal?
No, I was in Worcester working, and I met a friend that go to a Buddhist temple in Worcester. So and she knew some people from Jamsagata, and I was looking for volunteer. I wanted to go to India to volunteer. This is that. and she put me in contact with people from there. So and I saw the website and where it was located. It was like right in front of the Himalayas and all that. So I thought, oh, and they were looking. I wanted to teach because I have a science background, so I wanted to teach maybe in an orphanage and teach science. And they were looking for a science teacher. So okay, perfect. I'm going there. And so that was the reason. And I wanted to go for maybe 6 months, but the place was so amazing. The kids were. So I stayed more than a year.
Did it take very long for the children to warm up to you, or
Nothing? No, they're so sweet. They're very special. I mean, wherever you see in the film is exactly every single day is like that. They are like full of happiness, very, very warm. They just hug you as soon as you get there. They tell you stories and yeah.
So you're brought on as a science teacher,
Yeah.
but do you have other duties to help with as a teacher there in the village?
Well, in the same community, we work all together doing. I mean, in all the duties, like the teachers, the students, all the staff, like helping the kitchen, clean the bathroom, I don't know, gardening, all those things. We're doing all together. As a community. Yeah.
So, what was probably the most challenging thing for you to relocate and be there?
Actually, I don't know. I felt like at home there. It was. I thought it would be, for example, like take cold showers, like eat the same food almost every day. But no, there was. I don't know. I felt like
It was an easy adaptation.
I was a whole year there, and it was, perfect. I was like so happy to get up every day to go and teach them. It was very inspiring and emotional. Every time that I see the film, actually, I cry because it's like I reminds all those moments with them, all the stories of every kid, and I didn't feel like I didn't want to leave. Actually, I had to leave because of like family reasons. If not, maybe I'll stay there.
Again, I'll ask the same question that I put to John. Have you practiced Buddhism prior to going?
No, actually, I'm not Buddhist.
And would you meditate with them when you were there?
Yeah, but I was being part of that anyway. Yeah.
Yes. And Laura, what is your connection? Sorry, we apologize for the mic.
That's right.
A lot of control.
I
Laura Lowe.
Yes.
And where are you from, Laura?
I live here I live in Cambridge.
Okay, and how did you become involved with the community?
I met Lansing when he hadn't been here in the States too long. Through various serendipitous meetings, he was invited to stay with family in Concord and knew he wanted to teach Buddhism to Westerners, and started running a teaching class a couple times a week at a church in Concord. And I read an article in a local newspaper about him and went out and started to attend these meetings, which I still do weekly. And several years into this, he started talking about wanting to build this school where he was from. And I was astounded that it actually got off the ground. And started off with 12 children. He would go back and talk to all the villagers, and they actually donated property for the school, which is, you can see it was on a very high ridge, and most of the villages are, a couple of hours hike down. And started with 12 kids, and my husband and I started to sponsor one of those children. And as the school grew, I always knew that I wanted to go over and volunteer at the school. And I guess it was 2 years ago I did so. I went for a little bit more than a month. And since I have a science and medicine background, I worked with Romina as kind of an assistant teacher, since I had no teaching experience. And it was really a wonderful thing. And as Romina said, the children are not shy. I used to joke, the little ones, you wear them as accessories, because they just hang all over you, and you sit down and you have 3 or 4 in your lap. And the diet is limited, but it's absolutely delicious. And The accommodations are a little bit Spartan. I never took a hot shower because we had interesting immersion things. You put in a bucket and then you kind of scoop it over your head and you wash your clothes and you hang them on the line like it showed all the children hanging on the line.
The bedding looked nice and comfortable, cozy, warm.
Yes, it was. Because there's no heat and it gets down in the 40s. I wasn't there when it was that cold. I was there in June and it was very green there. Did a lot of hiking. But it was just a wonderful experience. And I would love to go back. One of the best experiences I had was, of course, getting to meet our sponsored child, who was probably about 5. And then when I met her, it was 14. And so all the kids are taught in English, and their English is getting better and better. So we could certainly communicate. And I just spent every minute I could with her, and would love to see her again.
The older girl that's graduating that the monk is sitting and talking with, and he says, have you thought about college? You can almost understand why these children that have been nurtured so much would find it very intimidating to go out into the world. We're not so kind and nice, you know, and with one another. And did you find that, you know, the older ones had that general attitude about, do you think that, you know, many, or did you find that any of them expressed that they didn't want to go away and that they were going to stay and help take care for the young people?
Well, I think like any group of children, there is such a mix of what the kids want to do. Some of these kids were so bright. For sure, they're going to go on to college and maybe medical school or engineering, who knows what. We're not sure that John C. Godsall is going to be able to provide the last 2 years of high school with the laboratory work, but it's an accredited school, and the kids are taking exams now and doing well in their exams. I'm sure many kids will go on, but there's also a big component in the school, both of, first of all, they study 3 languages. The teaching is in English, but they also are learning Tibetan, and some things are in their local Manpa tribal language, and Hindi. So they're learning all of these languages. So they get quite a good education. And there's also a lot of kind of local tradition and handicrafts brought in the school as far as dancing and singing, artwork, and also a trade things that they try to raise so much of the food at the school, big gardens, all organic gardening and composting and carpentry and masonry. Can you think of any of the other things? But they're so that kids will have a lot of directions to go to. Some probably want to go back to their village and raise better forms of millet, or so it's going to be a real experiment, and wonderful to see the various things that these kids will go off to do. And hopefully when they get older, well, hopefully we'll expand the school a little bit. And but the oldest kids are in 10th grade now. So if some do start going off to college, besides maybe being able to expand, start bringing in younger kids from the bottom too.
Do they have, is meditation scheduled just like other classes for the students?
Yeah, in the morning. There's not a lot of like Buddhist education. I think Lobsang, even though he's a monk, and he looks at Buddhism as a certain degree of ritual, but mostly as the most ethical way that you can live your life. And that's what he's really trying to imbue in all the teachers and the volunteers and the amalas and the children. But in the morning, the kids usually get up very early and they set up a little altar and do some chanting. And I can't remember if did they do that before bed too?
Before bed, no, they have before.
Oh, sorry. Just speak into the mic. Up.
So, yeah, they have, in the morning before breakfast, every day, they had the chanting, and then before dinner, they have either some praise and chanting or debates in Boti, Tibetan. So that was like every
So
day.
there is spiritual teaching, yes. I do want to open it up to the audience for questions. So please raise your hand and we'll come to you with a mic. The lady in the back here. And just, you might want to, if you want to direct your question to one person, we'll make sure they have the mic.
So, hi. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a question. I think it's more of an insight, comment, since we are closing the festival. I'm really happy that it closed with this documentary. I myself do the same work. I'm an architect and I work renovating shelters for kids at risk back in my country, Brazil. And I want to make us reflect on that, because what this film is representing is something that doesn't happen only in that specific village, but everywhere in the world. This reality repeats over and over again. The experiences that I have faced working with the kids back home was the same. When you come and these kids, they hug you as if you're like their mom or sister, or this kind of love that they never had. And to me, I think what's really important to raise here is the power that film has more than architecture, because architecture is very powerful in transforming society. And it really frustrates me. I am a student here in probably the best architecture school in the world. I came to do my research for the kids, and it frustrates me that this is a subject that is not put in the mainstream of discussion. And then we need another research tool that is more powerful than construction, than real estate, than planning, such as film, to open the minds, to bring a voice, and to tell people that we have to become accountable ourselves, that the change is not something external or some kind of a spiritual practice. It's beyond that. It's about each one of us shifting our practices towards what is the most important. So I'm really glad that you, as an architect, came here, and I wanted you to maybe share, like, how can we contribute? How can we bring the funds, which is the most important? Like, what kind of research tools? Film is one of them. Can we, like, how can we make this feasible? Because this also happens here where we are. I mean, you don't have to go far. You go to East Boston or Dorchester, and you're going to have like all these affordable housing projects that some of them will create even more situations of risk for kids, as we know in research results and health outcomes and all that. So what is it that we can do to actually give them this second chance and, you know, a hope for change? Thanks.
That's a tough question for an architect. It was directed to an architect, from an architect.
It is a tough question. You're right. In the architectural schools, we typically do not learn much about developing a building in, for example, the third world cultures, or local cultures or areas that are ill-served here in our own cities. However, since you're in school, the key thing is that when you are in school, what you're learning is tools to be able to do things in the future. And I can't tell you, of all my fellow graduates from schools around here, architectural schools around here, they end up in all sorts of areas. They're driven by their passions, and that's partly why we get into architecture in the first place. But then secondarily, they're driven by their passions to do things that are interesting and exciting. And you have to search it out to follow that passion, to work in, for example, in the third world. Or you have to have kids who get you into it, one of the two. But that's the key, really, because you're not going to learn it in school. But what you will learn is the tools, and that's the important thing.
And interestingly, we showed a film from the Netherlands last night about troubled youth and social workers going out in the field working with different ethnicities that are in Amsterdam predominantly. And what to me separated this film from others, yes, we need housing. Absolutely, we need a roof over our heads. But we could be in a tent, and if we're loved and we're shown that we're important, no matter what our experiences have been early on that have created anger and insecurity and aggression, that those things can be worn down like a rock, in the stream. And it's probably a long process, and I don't want to underestimate what it takes. But you can see with Tashi and his work with her, and not only with her, but preparing the older children to take responsibility for the younger ones that are coming in. We're not separate from one another. We're interdependent upon one another, and he so much stresses that, and the love and compassion piece. I just, I had to put my 2 cents in there because that spoke so loudly to me. Did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, actually, that is something. I have been working in different organizations and in different parts of the world, so with kids. What I really like about these places was that the kids are like it's a family, so they receive love from the Amalas. They're like their moms, and Lobson is their father. And many, for example, Tashi came in this way, like she was so naughty and all that. But many kids face the same problems. When they got there, they were like with different situations. All the situations that brought them there were terrible. No, either parents alcoholics or dead, or how do you say that they were sold, or different terrible situations. So they were very either too shy, not talking, or like with very difficulties. And then with the love for the whole community and the acceptance and the friendship and all that, the kids really change. And as the same as you saw with Tashi, many of the kids have the same story behind.
Mm-hmm.
So
a common story. Do we have other questions in the audience? Yes, right over here.
Well, I think what you're doing is wonderful, but it's hard for me not to think we've got the same problem right here in Cambridge, and there's nothing comparable happening. We've put families or kids in motels, the number of homeless teenagers who've run away from home or been thrown out of home. I mean, we're one of the highest populations in the country for that. And, where is the program here? Where are the efforts here to do that? There's a preschool in Central Square for homeless children called Our Place. It's wonderful, but then they go to the public schools from the motels. And I just find, certainly what you're doing and all over the world, there are problems, but I'll try it. Politely, I wanted to say, it's happening right here, and we're not doing anything. I don't.
Right, and I hear what you're saying. It's certainly, and concentrating on the Buddhist, the Buddhist communities. I mean, we certainly have numerous Buddhist communities. I don't know what they do in terms of outreach to community. I really couldn't speak to that. Laura, do you know at all? Okay. And how about you, John? Would you have any?
I don't know, but in a sense the question is, why are we doing something in India when we could be doing something in Cambridge? You're right, except that we kind of just follow our lives where they lead us. And this one led us to India, and we're happy to be helping, and that's all we can do.
Yes, I think we all do. And I think sometimes that, it's wonderful that we live in this judicial, this country that has such a fabulous judicial system when we look at other countries. But yet again, it also puts our hands behind our backs oftentimes when we mix religion or philosophical teachings with outreach in that sense. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as just a possibility of hindrance, but certainly not an excuse. Indeed, indeed. Do we have any other responses to this film? Powerful film. Andrew and Johnny. Ah, dear. Yes.
I'm very curious about the children that have left, that graduated from school, gone to college. Do you ever hear from them, or how they're doing?
The highest grade is the 10th grade right now, so none have left. Yeah, they started in kindergarten, and they just haven't gotten that high yet. There's one girl right now, I think, who was involved. I don't think she went through the entire 10 years, but she has been sent to nursing school, and she plans to come back and help at the school. That's just one.
Yeah, actually, that girl, mainly, she's just start now in Delhi University, but yeah, she studied in the public. She went there when she was like a little bit older than the rest of the kids. So because of she lost both parents, but she was like 4 years older than the rest of the kids. So they kind of adopt her like for like 5-6 years. So she was in another school, in a public school study, and now this year she went to Delhi. She's doing well, as far as I know. Yeah.
Laura, how long have you been involved with the community? I'm sorry.
Let's see, probably more than 10 years now.
And how old is your student that you're supporting?
She's, I think, 14, maybe 15 this year. No one there has birth certificates or really knows how old they are. And I think a lot of the children they thought were a lot younger than they were because they were malnourished. And then they all, started to grow a lot, and girls got their period when they were saying, oh my gosh, we thought that they were 9, but no, they're 13.
Does she recognize you as the person that is responsible for her well-being?
Yes, because we write back and forth and send pictures. Every time there's people going back and forth through the community, they send out information to all the sponsors saying, I'm going to go, send me your letters, send me your photographs, and then they come back with a lot of stuff from the school. And you also get kind of reports from the teachers about how they're doing in school and things like that. And we do have, we've become a nonprofit, and we did bring some flyers and other information about Jhansi Gatsal and Jhansi International. And if anybody's interested in taking a folder and finding a little bit about the organization and the school, we'll be happy to hand them out.
Laurie, could you pronounce the name of the monk for me?
Lobsang Phomsak.
Lobsang. Lobsang. What a responsibility on his shoulders that he has to make decisions about not taking children in that are in need. You can just see how that weighs on him.
Yes.
My gracious, what a responsibility. Do we have other questions in the audience for the panel? Well, if there are no other questions, yes, there will be literature at the table as we go out about the community there. And I want to thank all of you. Please relay to the filmmakers as well as to Lobsang.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Okay.